Hello and welcome to the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce 2016 Forums. Is part of a series of ongoing forums that we are doing throughout this election year for our primaries, our nonpartisan races, and of course we'll continue these into the fall and the general election. These include local races, state races, congressional races, all of which affect us here in Coweta County, and this is intended particularly for Coweta County and regional voters. We have a number of races that we're going to touch on tonight, just as the Chamber is hosting forums for our Coweta County Board of Education races and for our primaries for the congressional seat that is up this year. We have a number of races that we are going to focus on here tonight, coming up on the May 24th, 2016 nonpartisan and partisan primary elections. We have three races, in fact: Judge of Probate Court, Senate 28, and the Coweta County Commission District 1. We're going to hear from candidates from each one of those tonight here at the Central Educational Center. And so to our audience with us tonight and to anyone watching, welcome to CEC, the Central Educational Center. In fact, a special thanks from the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce goes to Michael Britt and his video students here at the Central Educational Center, all of whom have prepared this forum hall tonight and prepared a place for the candidates that you'll hear from tonight and are filming it as well. Thank you very much, and thank you to the Central Educational Center for this partnership and this great opportunity to bring these messages to the people of our community. These forums, I should say, are sponsored, as I said, by the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce, and they intend to focus on these candidates who are running for Judge of Probate Court, the Republican primary for State Senate 28, and the Coweta County Commission District 1 seat. The candidates in those races include, for Probate Court, Judge Mary Cranford, the incumbent, and Angela Munson, the challenger for this nonpartisan Judge of Probate Court seat. For Senate 28, we have Republican Matt Brass and Hayden Marlowe, who are running to take that seat, recently vacated by Senator Mike Crane. And for Coweta County Commission District 1, we have Republican Paul Poole, the incumbent commissioner, Joey Pendley, and Gary DeGeorge, who are running as Republicans in that race. We want to thank our candidates for being here tonight, and most of all, we want to thank these candidates, all of them, for running for office here in our community. We appreciate their commitment to this community, and we appreciate their commitment to this process. We also, as we said, like to thank Mike Britt, CEC, and all of those folks at the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce who have made this possible. These forums are intended to give the voters of Coweta County an opportunity to hear the views of these candidates on issues faced by the Probate Court, the County Commission, and our state legislature. Chamber of Commerce is a nonpartisan organization. It does not endorse candidates for office. Questions you'll hear tonight have been submitted by Chamber members, and they apply equally to all of our candidates who are here. We ask that our guests at tonight's forum respect that neutrality as well and the dignity of this occasion in general by refraining from any demonstration for or against a candidate. We ask that they hold their applause or any show of support or opposition during our forum, even for or maybe especially for those issues that they feel most strongly about. Our occasion tonight is meant to give these candidates a chance to speak for themselves as they seek election to these posts. Our format is going to be similar to Chamber of Commerce forums held throughout the years. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening and closing statement, and candidates will have then a series of questions to which they will have up to 1 minute to respond, and if they elect, a 30-second rebuttal to their opponent. After the second candidate gives his answer, we will call for that 30-second rebuttal if they would like. And our candidates are also be signaled for time, and so we would ask that our candidates generally respect that time tonight as we go along. That said, we are going to go on to our first race tonight, and that is the Judge of Probate Court. Again, a nonpartisan post coming up for election on the 24th. We have Judge Mary Cranford, the incumbent in that seat, and her challenger, Angela Munson. For this first forum, Judge Cranford could not attend tonight and did send her regrets. Her challenger, Angela Munson, is with us, and so I would like to thank you very much for coming tonight. We will give you an opportunity to speak about yourself and about the post that you are seeking. So again, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Jackson.
We are going to start then really just by affording you an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself and the probate court. Let me ask you about yourself first. If you could sort of take this moment with your opening statement, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and tell us why you are seeking this post.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and the CEC students for hosting these forums. It's an honor and a privilege for me to participate, and I really appreciate the opportunity for all candidates to be able to get their message out and speak about their experience and why they're running. To tell you a little bit about myself, I'm married. My husband's a retired police officer. I'm the mother of 4 beautiful children. I live on a small farm in northwest Coweta County. I grew up in Griffin, and I came back here to live close to my parents and to raise a family. My experience is that I went to Georgia State University. I received a Bachelor of Arts there. I worked for Delta Airlines and put myself through school, and then I went on to law school at Tulane Law School in New Orleans, Louisiana. Upon graduating from law school, I came back home. I was an assistant DA for 4 years, and then in 1998, I went to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I'm currently an assistant U.S. attorney in the Northern District of Georgia. So I have 22 years of experience in the courtroom and trying cases. Why am I running for probate judge? Well, Coweta has grown and changed over the last 2 to 3 decades, really. And I think that it's important as a resident of Coweta County that we be proactive rather than reactive to the change and the growth that we've experienced in our county. And I believe that I have the skill set to bring to our county an Article 6 court, which Article 6 under Georgia law means a probate judge that has the experience and the qualifications the same as a Superior Court judge, and it's for a county that has 90,000 residents or more. I believe that having the probate court be an Article 6 court will mean more efficient government for us here in our county, not just for the probate court, but especially with a focus on Superior Court. And I think it's important for us to plan for the growth and adapt with the growth as a county so that we can continue to keep Coweta great.
If you don't mind, I want to ask you, in a sense, a very basic question for those folks who may be viewing this. Tell us what the probate court does. It has a tremendous number of functions, very important to the people in Coweta County. What does a probate court do? And if you could elaborate a little bit on what you would like to do in that post or to make changes.
Okay. Probate court is a court that exists in every county all over Georgia. Every county has a probate court. You may know that our superior courts are part of a circuit, and so those judges travel around to 5 other counties to sit on the superior court bench. Probate court is one of the 4 constitutional officers in county government. Every probate court is different. They have different responsibilities, and a lot of that is dictated by the needs of the county and the population. Specifically, our probate court currently does the major things that it does is it issues firearms permits, it issues marriage permits, licenses, it is a vital records custodian for death certificates and birth certificates. It will facilitate the administration of trusts and estates, and it can, when it's held by an Article 6 judge, handle habeas corpus hearings to relieve some of the pressure off of Superior Court. So those are the high points of what probate court does here in our county.
Just in general, have you seen or are you aware of some changes in probate court, particularly in the demands of the services of probate court as our population has grown?
I believe that probate court has experienced a lot of change, and it's pretty much on the front line of experiencing the growth that we have in our county. I don't recall the number off the top of my head, but I believe that the firearms permits applications have quadrupled, and it's something that's in a higher demand because our population has grown. So some of the things that I would like to do have already been implemented that I started campaigning on. One-stop shopping for fingerprinting. And I think that's a fine example of how our system, we have the greatest government in the world. I didn't even have to be elected, and already some of the issues that the electorate has raised on the campaign trail came to fruition during the campaign. I'd also like to see that there be an increase in access to documents through online filing and online access, and that's something that the Supreme Court of Georgia is implementing for all courts of record across the state. Finally, I'd like to see an increase for access to documents for individuals in the county, period. We have a population of the baby boomers who are living longer, and they're having to manage their health and their wealth for a longer period of time. In order to do that, they need a resource such as probate court to be able to go to and get those documents so that they can manage themselves for a longer period of time. And so what that would mean is implementing a probate clinic. And my thought process is to do that in a two-step fashion. The first step would be to have local attorneys volunteer their time to answer routine questions up to 30 minutes per person and help individuals fill out forms that they need, such as a durable power of attorney, appointing guardianships, establishing a will, or really just setting up an estate type document for themselves. And what you may not know is that Georgia is a forms-driven state. And what that means is when the Uniform Probate Code was implemented in Georgia, the thought process was if you graduated from high school, you could fill out these documents and manage your own affairs on your own. But quite often, it's reassuring to have an attorney sit down with you and explain, yes, that's where your name goes, that's where the other person's name goes, yes, this is where you sign, and we'll have it notarized. And I think these are important documents that people need in an everyday fashion as they're living longer and having to manage their health and their wealth longer. And I'd like to see that be a resource for our county at probate court.
Well, again, Ms. Munson, we thank you for being here tonight. We're going to close the segment out, so I want to just ask you, is there anything more that you'd like to say to close us out?
I would like to say that it's not necessarily common knowledge that we are going to get an Article 6 court at some time in the future. Our population is over 90,000, and the law requires in Georgia that all new candidates have the same qualifications as a Superior Court judge in order to run for that office and to hold that seat. And it's my goal to be planning ahead and for us to do this thoughtfully and carefully in a way that benefits the county and the citizens as a resource. And I hope everyone will get out and vote starting Monday, and definitely get out to vote on May 24th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Munson. Thank you for coming tonight. We wish you the absolute best of luck. And again, most of all, thank you and thank the incumbent, Judge Cranford, for running for this important post. We appreciate your service to this community and your devotion to it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
That'll close our initial forum for tonight. We're going to be back in a few moments, and we're going to take a look at the candidates for Senate District 28. welcome once again to the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce forums for races that are going on throughout this year, and specifically races that are coming up in either the nonpartisan elections or the partisan primaries May 24th in Coweta County and statewide. We're going to turn now to the Georgia General Assembly and the Senate District 28 seat formerly held by Senator Mike Crane, a Republican from Coweta County. We have two challengers who are running for that seat now that Senator Crane has stepped aside to run for the congressional seat being vacated by Lynn Westmoreland. We have both of those here with us today, Hayden Marlowe and Matt Brass running for Senate District 28, and both of whom have come here to the Central Educational Center and the Video Production Labs at CEC. And once again, thanks to Mike Britt for staging this and CEC. For hosting this tonight. And of course, thank you, Mr. Brass. Thank you, Mr. Marlowe, for both running for these seats and for coming to our forums tonight. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
We're going to go on with our forums in just a few minutes, and we're going to follow that format that we followed in the past here of the Chamber. This is a forum that is intended to give both of you opportunities to talk about the issues that you're bringing to the table and bringing to the race for Senate District 28. We're going to start with 2-minute opening statements in just a few moments. I'll give you a heads up. We're going to start with Mr. Brass on my left in just a few moments. And he'll have an opportunity for a 2-minute opening statement, and then Mr. Marlowe, you'll have an opportunity for a 2-minute opening statement. We'll then go to a series of questions that generally I'm going to ask for 1-minute answers, and we have a timekeeper right here that kind of reminds you of where you are in your answers. There may be some of these that I give you 2 minutes for an answer if they're a little bit larger questions, but we'd ask that you try to respect that time limit as we go along throughout the night. If you do see that your time's up at the end of your minute, and don't just stop right there, please do finish the sentence and try to wrap up, but we will ask that you respect those 1 or 2 minute time limits as we go along. I'll also stagger these throughout the night, so just as Mr. Brass is going to start with his opening statement in a few moments, followed by you, Mr. Marlowe, we'll ask the first question of you and go back and forth throughout the night until we get to our closing statements at the end of tonight's forum, which will also be 2 minutes. So again, thank you very much for being here tonight at this Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce forum. With that, we're going to start our forum tonight. We'll start with 2-minute opening statements. Mr. Brass, you have the floor.
Well, good evening, Dean, and thank you, Chamber and CEC. Mike Britt, thank you for having us out this evening, and thank you to everyone who showed up tonight and everybody who's going to be watching on TV. This is an important election, and it's important to be involved. Just to want to tell you real quick who I am. I am Matt Brass and grew up right here in Coweta County, and I graduated Noonan High School in 1996 and married an East Coweta girl. So I know a little bit about giving and taking there. So, but I grew up, then went to the United States Navy, then graduated from University of Georgia after exiting the Navy. After that, I went to work for Canongate Golf Clubs, working at Canongate 1 in Sharpsburg and then White Oak there in Noonan. So after exiting as a golf pro, I went on and now work as Chief of Staff for Congressman Lynn Westmoreland. And thanks to his retirement, Hayden and I have an opportunity to fill the seat that Mike Crane is vacating. So being a golf pro, I learned some valuable lessons. I learned, number one, that I really have a passion for helping others. When people used to walk in the door, it was my job to put a smile on their face. And then going on to work for the congressman, I've been given a bigger platform to help more people in bigger and better ways. And now that platform is leaving, I'm now seeking the state Senate seat so that I continue to help others, so that I can continue to help you. And that's what I plan on doing. That's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brass. We appreciate it. And Mr. Marlowe, we'll now go to you for a 2-minute opening statement.
Well, thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak and share the ideas that I have and what necessarily our government should be involved in and maybe what it should kind of back off and maybe not be so much involved in. I'm 25 years old. I live here in Noonan, Georgia. I graduated from Northgate High School in 2008. I earned a baseball scholarship to Andrew College, and I currently live on 4th Street here in Noonan with my wife and my 4 lovely daughters. I currently work for a company called Piedmont Springs in Norcross, Georgia. We do private label bottled water for companies and private events. I'm working as a manager there currently, helping them grow and expand and become a bigger player in the private label bottled water industry, which has been growing exponentially over the past few years. I got into politics because I've noticed that our candidates and politicians who do get into office seem to get into office and absolutely forget about the people who originally put them there, the voters. They get there, they find out that, hey, I can do great things here for myself, and they end up doing just that. There are a few things that I'd like to do as state senator. Number one is absolutely reform our broken education system. We spend in the lower percentile in terms of amount of money per student, and we see a pretty low graduation rate as well. I think it's like 45, 46 out of 50. And I think that's poor. That's bad. I don't like to see that happen, and I hope that we can change that going forward, to a better, more prosperous state.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll now get on to a series of questions. Hopefully they'll give you an opportunity to talk about some of the issues that I know are important to both of you. I'm generally going to have 1 minute, or ask that you try to follow 1 minute responses to questions. But these first question or two, we're going to talk about the economy here in Georgia. And so I'm going to shift just right here at the beginning to 2 minute answers. We'll also give you an opportunity for a rebuttal at the end of this 2 minute answers. But again, these first couple questions will be 2 minutes. Mr. Marlowe, we're going to start with you. And again, our first question is about the state's economy in Georgia. Like all other states throughout our nation, was greatly affected by the recent recession and the aftermath of that recession, many of whom feel it's still going on. Nonetheless, it appears that there have been a good many improvements over the last year or two. I know Georgia's unemployment rate, I believe this is right, was up to most recently around 5.5%. That was, or thereabouts, and that was significantly better even than last year, when it was the same time, about 6.2, 6.5%. We have seen some improvements. Nonetheless, how would you characterize the state of Georgia's economy, and what are some things that you would do to try to address that? Again, 2 minutes, starting with you, Mr. Marlowe.
Well, to start off, I think that our economy is lackluster still at best. We do start to see employment on the rise. It's not necessarily where we want it to be. Obviously, we'd like to have it at full employment. And I think that the best way to do that is to get government out of the way. You look at microbrewers and their inability to sell directly to customers. You look at Vidalia onion salesmen down in Vidalia, Georgia. They're unable to sell onions at the peak of the season when, as farmers from Texas are able to hop onto that market because the state owns the brand of Vidalia. And those are just a few of the regulations that I think government just needs to maybe say, hey, this isn't our place. This isn't our area to step in and try and tell private companies, private entities, how to do their job, which is make profits and employ citizens of the state.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Brass, same question. How would you characterize Georgia's economy? What are some things you think the state government should do to address that economy?
Well, the economy is obviously, it is getting better. Is it moving at the pace that we all want? The answer is no. And I agree with Hayden that, we can attribute that to these mandates coming out of Washington, D.C. They're not good. They haven't been good for the last 7 years, about to be 8 years. And we need to get government out of our lives. But to talk about the economy, we got to talk about, agriculture. It's the number one industry in this state. Number one, it does roughly a little bit more than $71 billion a year. So ag is although it's easy for us here in Coweta County, or really specifically in Noonan or Sharpsburg or Sonoy, we can forget about ag. But if you get outside of the city limits, you see the importance of it. You know, we've got dairy farms all over this county. We've got them down in Troup County. We've got them all over Heard. Ag is a big part, and we've got to maintain the GATE program. That is the Georgia Agricultural Tax Exemptions for our farmers. That program has helped lead the organic farm movement. That's something that needs to stay intact. Number 2 industry in Georgia, film industry. Tell me that's not important for this county. And if we don't maintain these tax incentives that were done correctly, they were done correctly by our state senator at the time, was Senator Mitch Seaball, worked with one of our state representatives, Matt Ramsey, who were both left the General Assembly. Those are now going to be under attack, and it's an across the board. It's not picking winners and losers. It's doing the whole industry, and we got it right. We got it right, and we've got to maintain that. And that's our industry. That is the business that drives these counties.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brass. Mr. Marlowe, I'm going to turn to you. I'd give you up to, and both of you, of course, if you choose to take it, but up to 1 minute rebuttal. Would you care for a rebuttal?
I would, if that's all right.
Sure.
I just want to say that, is it really the government's job to come in and give a private company taxpayer money? I don't think so. I think that there are other ways that we can incentivize industries, such as the film industry, to come to Georgia without having to actually come out of our funds in order to do so.
Rebuttal, Mr. Brass.
Yes, I mean, I'm a Republican, and I'm for lower taxes, plain and simple. How can we say we want more taxes from these industries? Again, it's industry-wide. It's not picking winners and losers. It's industry-wide. And I'm a Republican, and I'm for lower taxes, period.
In a sense, I'm going to give you both in our next question a chance to elaborate on that and talk about some related issues. But specifically, since we've talked about the economy a bit, let's talk about taxes in Georgia. And I'm just going to give you an open-ended question. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Brass. How would you characterize Georgia's current tax structure? What are some things you would like to do to address that, even if that is maintain the current structure that we have at the state level? Again, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes, to respond to that question.
Well, I mean, the current system is obviously not working completely. Definitely needs some reform. I would like to see us give some back on income tax, and we could, move slightly towards a consumption tax. But the issue we're going to have to look at is we do have an aging population, so timing is going to be crucial with that. So we've got to do it at the right time. It's not always black and white on what to do, but you also got to consider when to do it. So yeah, I would like to see us go a little bit more towards a consumption tax, backing off the income tax. And it's going back to picking the winners and losers. Again, I'm okay with, as long as it's industry wide, that's fine. And as long as we're offering these tax incentives to small businesses that we're offering to the larger businesses, then great. But the problem is if you reform that one at a time and you take away that at our state, well, now we're operating behind other states that we're competing with. So if you're going to attack that, you got to attack it at the federal level, making an even playing field for every state. You can't if we do it to our state, we're only hurting ourselves.
Thank you. Mr. Marlowe, same question, up to 2 minutes, please, sir.
Oh, I've always been a big fan of the fair tax, and recently the fair tax was introduced at the state level, and I think that that's a program and piece of legislation that we should look at in terms of getting involved here in Georgia. I think the income tax is inherently a disincentive to actually get out and get a job. If you were able to keep the entire fruits of your labor, you're really more inclined to get out there and find a job and contribute to everyday society. The fair tax would eliminate the income tax as it exists here in Georgia, and it would replace it with a consumption tax like Mr. Brass was talking about. I think that this is a great way to incentivize people to get out and get working. It also would eliminate payroll taxes at the state level for companies that would also incentivize companies to bring business here to Georgia. And one thing that a consumption tax does that an income tax is not able to do is it gives people the option. It gives people choice on when they can be taxed and when they can't. And if you maybe want another TV or that new car, might not necessarily need it, but you have that option. You don't get taxed right off the bat every check just because you make X amount of money. I think that that's wrong. Honestly, I think it's unconstitutional, and I think that that's something that we need to change here in Georgia.
Opportunity for rebuttal up to 1 minute. Mr. Brass.
Well, not so much a rebuttal, but I'll just, because I really agree with Hayden on this, but, and a lot of things actually, but I'll just say again, if we're going to do it, timing is going to be crucial. We can't just act on emotion, and we've got to think through the process, and really look at the population, look at the age, and really consider that, because we do have a lot of people that are going into retirement, and I know under the fair tax their buying power will be better, and that's true, and I agree with that, but at the same time we have to really consider them and make sure that they're going to be okay.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marlowe, response?
Just the response on that. I just think that there's never really a right time. There's always going to be something that's holding us back from making that leap that's necessary to make reasonable changes in our state. I think now's a great time, and better now than never.
We'll go to 1 minute responses on the following questions, but a little bit of a follow-up. I think, Mr. Marlowe, you're first on this one. Both of y'all have touched on this a little bit in talking about Georgia's tax structure and others with incentives and that sort of thing. But I'm going to ask you to comment in general about support for industry in Georgia's economy. When it comes to supporting existing industry, attracting new industries to Georgia, making sure the ones that we have here stay and flourish, what's the most important thing that can happen in terms of the state legislature and the state government in general, making sure that Georgia is a business-friendly environment? And we'll start with you.
Well, I think first and foremost, it's not to give out tax incentives and tax credits to draw in businesses, because ultimately it's a temporary measure. I think if you really want to attract businesses for the long run, you deregulate. You get government out of the way of the private industry. You allow them to go in and do what they do best, and that's do business. That's in whatever industry that may be. Business makes better decisions for themselves than the government does. And I stand by that when it comes to economics or when it comes to individual liberties. Just in general, government involvement is generally never the answer.
Very good. Mr. Brass?
Well, for me, it's all about workforce development. And workforce development, there's no better place that does it right than right here in Coweta County. And it started right here at the CEC, getting our young kids ready to go to the next level, getting them ready to go to technical school, getting them ready to go to college, and most importantly, getting them ready to go to work. That's what it's all about. When site selectors are looking for a place to locate their business, that is one of the top things they are looking for. They're looking for location. They're looking for workforce development. We've got location. We're right near the world's busiest airport. We've got many exits right along a major interstate. And we're about to have access to the largest port on the eastern seaboard. So now it's all about workforce development, getting these kids ready to go into these jobs. You look over in Carroll County, 12 for Life. They're getting it right. I encourage everyone at home, Google 12 for Life, and you will read all about it. The chamber here is about to start an apprentice program. The developer of it is sitting with us tonight, Martin Plyer. Grenzebach is going to lead the challenge on workforce development. This is what it's all about.
Mr. Marlowe, response?
No response.
All right. I think I'm going to start with Mr. Brass on this question. In a sense, sort of the same spirit, talk a little bit about an issue that's important to Georgians overall, and that's transportation. The state struggled, I think it's fair to say, with addressing Georgia's infrastructure needs and how best to fund that. Take a 1-minute response, if you could, for a few moments. Talk a little bit about what you think Georgia should do to address its infrastructure needs, specifically its transportation needs.
Well, it's already been addressed. I mean, they took the vote last year. I know it was not an easy vote for a lot of people, and you know, but the fact is that the good that comes out of it is that we now don't have to rely on the federal government as much as we used to for these road projects. Now the state can fund these projects. Projects that used to take 10 years through the federal government, we can now do in 2 and 3 years. Had we passed some similar legislation 5 years ago, the Poplar Interchange would have already been built. We'd already have direct access to that hospital. And again, it's, you know, I wish there could have been some better conversations on different ways to address it and to fund it. And I think we kind of missed on it. And but however, we got it. And so I look to the positive, and the positive is we got the federal government out of our way, and now we can attack these road projects and these issues as a state.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marlowe, transportation.
Well, I mean, I think if we're looking for transportation funding and funding for rebuilding our infrastructure, then we should look at our current budget. I mean, if we don't have the money to be able to build those roads or finish that bridge, then we need to find somewhere in the budget that we can make room to be able to do so. Passing the state's largest tax increase in its history, I don't think is the way that you go about making sure that infrastructure is taken care of in the state of Georgia.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Brass, rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
All right. We're going to move on to Mr. Marlowe for start this next question. And I'm going to really ask two questions here. One sort of two questions are give us a little bit of an idea of how, as a state senator, you would work both with your local constituents and with your peers statewide in the Georgia Senate, Georgia General Assembly, and Georgia's government. Let me ask locally first. How would you, as a state senator, when you face big issues, whether they be divisive issues or just simply complicated issues of importance to Coweta County voters, you represent the voters in Senate District 28, how would you go about communicating as a state senator with your local constituents and talking with local organizations, local institutions in making a decision as you go forward on a vote in the state Senate? Mr. Marlowe first.
I think the best way to handle that is make myself available, which I try and do to the best of my ability. On my business cards, I have my personal cell phone number. I have my email address. You can contact me through my website. Really, that's the best possible way that we can really get involved and allow the constituents to be able to contact their representatives and let them know how they feel about a specific issue or where they feel that the community stands when it comes to big time decisions that need to be made.
Very good. Mr. Brass.
I mean, to me, it's all about getting involved in the community. If you get out, you got to get out of your office and you got to get out there. I've done it for 4.5 years with the congressman's office. I've worked this district. I've shook hands. I've met lots of people. We've worked with local officials on local issues. We've worked with local officials on state issues. We've done it from top to bottom. We've met with people in D.C. We've met with them all over the district, and I'll continue to do that. But the key though is you got to be involved in this community. It is a great, great community. There's a lot going on. There's more than just politics. There's a lot of issues out there. And politics aren't going to solve them. Government is not going to solve them. But we, as a community, we can solve them. It just takes a little effort.
Very good. Mr. Barlow, response? Mr. Brass, then I'll turn to you to open this next, or for this next question. In a sense, it's the same kind of question, but at the state level. This is obviously, this is not an executive position. This is a legislative position. one of many Georgia senators, must work with the House, work with state government, work with the governor and a number of folks. How would you go about, how would you approach working with other members of state government in making difficult decisions? And do you think that how you do that is important to how Coweta County is perceived statewide?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, you got to go up there with principles. You got to have principles. That's what you got to stand on, and that's what you can never compromise on. But once you have those principles, you can figure out real quick who's up there for the right reason, who's up there for the state of Georgia. That is your job. Your job as a state senator or as a state representative is to, number one, balance the budget, and number two, do what's best for Georgia. And so we're going to figure out real quick who's in this for Georgia and the citizens of Georgia and who's not. And if you're not, we'll deal with you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Marlowe.
Well, I mean, I think Brass hit on something really, really important, and that is principles and making sure that, excuse me, that everybody knows where you stand on the issues. But I think what I'll find is that when you stand for a small, limited government and you threaten the power of politicians who have been doing this for quite some time, you're not going to make very many friends. I have a friend that's currently serving in the House of Representatives in Georgia, or the State House of Representatives in Georgia, and he tried to pass a simple bill and couldn't get anything passed at all on it. And I think that is going to be a common theme when you stand for your principles and you threaten the power of people who want nothing but power. You're not going to make very many friends.
Thank you, sir. Response? We'll move on. I'm going to have one other 2-minute question that we'll have right here in the middle. I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I'm starting with Mr. Marlowe on this one. Education. Take 2 minutes, address education in the state of Georgia. What do you think about the current funding for education? And most importantly, what do you think state government needs to do to help make its education system effective for its citizens? Mr. Marlowe first.
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to get federal government out of education. We need to end Common Core in Georgia and then start focusing on what we can do as a state. We currently, like I said earlier, we currently sit kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to amount of money spent per student here in Georgia. And that's right around $9,000. And I'm not saying that we should increase that amount, but maybe look at other ways that we can spend it more effectively. And what I've been looking at is a voucher system that allows parents and the students to be able to kind of come up with and see what school best fits their child and allow these public funds that are being spent at these failing public schools to maybe be, looking at a private school, which the average private school in Georgia costs roughly, you guessed it, right about $9,000. And so, again, I don't necessarily think we need to increase the amount of spending at the state level, but I do think that we need to look at ways that we could better effectively spend that money. And obviously, dumping it right back into the public education system hasn't worked for us previously. I really don't think it's going to work for us in the future.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brass, same question, 2 minutes.
Well, I'll add real quick to what Hayden said on the, with Common Core and with the federal government being involved in education. No, we don't want that, and we want to get it back to the state, but it doesn't need to stop at the state. It needs to return back to the local level, back to where the boots are on the ground, back to where parents can teach their children. And when talking about education, you have to look at the full gamut. You have to look at public education, private schools, charter schools, homeschool. It's all part of the education topic, and it's not the state's job to tell us how to do education. It's the state's job to give us the tools we need to teach our children.
Very good. Mr. Marlowe, rebuttal or response?
No, thank you.
All right. I think I'm moving on to Mr. Brass for this next question. If I could, a couple of little hot button issues ask y'all to respond to, 1-minute statements. Earlier this month, Governor Nathan Deal vetoed House Bill 757 the Religious Liberty Bill allowed faith-based organizations to deny services to those who violate sincerely held religious beliefs, and so on. I'm not going to go through the whole explanation. Please characterize it if you'd like to any way you'd like. But what did you think about that legislation and that veto?
Well, I think the bill that as written and as passed in both the House and in the Senate, it addressed the needs that the business community had and their concerns. And, you know, I wish the governor had voted on it, but he didn't, and I respect that. That's the way the system works, and I look forward to being a part of the conversation next year. You know, and I think we could, you know, you got to look at the history of the bill. The national bill was, the federal law was what came into effect in 1993. The Supreme Court ruled that it didn't apply to state laws, I think, around 1997. So since then, you've seen about 21 states adopt a state measure that would address it. And so Georgia's trying to do that. So next year, I think we'll see they'll take out some of the language, would be my guess. And I think if we can mirror the federal law, then we can get something that will pass. We know if we pass what just came through, the governor's already threatened to veto again. And again, I would respect that decision, but hopefully we can sit down like grown-ups and work out something that we can get to help Georgians.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Marlowe, to you, please, sir.
Well, I think what they were trying to do was well-intentioned, but I think that it missed. What it ended up doing is carving out extensions for specific classes or specific titles, instead of taking the premise that the right to religion and the right to practice that freely belongs to everyone. And you know, they made it to where essentially, you know, pastors don't have to participate in gay weddings. Well, what about the florist that's forced to provide the flowers, or the baker that's forced to bake the wedding cakes? I don't think that the government should be in the business of telling businesses who and who not to do business with. And again, I think they slightly missed on the issue, though it was well-intentioned.
Very good. Mr. Brass, rebuttal or response?
No.
All right. Mr. Marlowe, we'll start with you on this next question. Another one, that's campus carry law. The House Bill 859, which would allow anyone 21 or older with a weapons license to carry a gun on a public college or university campus. That passed both chambers. It's before the governor. What's your view on that law?
I fully support campus carry legislation. I fully support the Second Amendment, and I will stand by it, you know, until the day that I pass. This is an absolutely key right in the United States. Without the Second Amendment right to bear arms, it's difficult for private citizens to be able to defend the other liberties that they should naturally have. I would look to expand gun privileges throughout Georgia. I think that really we should do our best to try and put an end to gun-free zones in public spaces. But again, I support campus carry legislation, and if Governor Deal does not sign that into law, I'll be right there leading the fight next year.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brass.
Yes, I support campus carry as well. And, you know, I've got 2 kids here tonight, and heaven forbid they go to Georgia Tech one day. Being a Georgia grad, that just would be tough on me. But if they should go to Georgia Tech, I want them to have an ability to protect themselves. I mean, you look at these kids walking down the street in downtown Atlanta and going on the, you know, through into the libraries at Georgia State and getting robbed, and we're not going to give them their God-given right to protect themselves. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Very good. Mr. Marlowe, response or rebuttal?
No response.
It's always the nature of these forums that we can only ask a limited number of questions, and so we're kind of coming a little bit close to the end. There are a number of things that we could talk about: Georgia's healthcare spending, our university system, and so forth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to each of you and ask you if there's anything more. And I believe, Mr. Brass, I'm going to start with you in just a moment. I'm going to ask if you would tell us what is an issue perhaps that we have not addressed tonight that you find particularly interesting, that and something that's compelling to the voters of Senate District 28. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Brass, that first and give you a moment to speak to it. Then I'm going to ask you, Mr. Marlowe, and give you a moment to speak to it, Mr. Brass, and then we'll move to our closing statement. So, Mr. Brass first. What is an issue that we have not spoken to tonight that you think is of particular importance?
Well, to me, I'd like to see some reform at DFACS. You know, we've got close to 9,000 kids in Georgia in foster care. Right here in Coweta County, we've got 89 kids. There's only 7 foster homes. We're having to ship them all over the state so that they can have a home. What kind of stability is that for a child? So then we wonder why our unemployment rates are high. Why are all these people on government assistance? And to me, it's all directly related. So if we can get in there and fix DFACS, do I know how to do it? No. I'm not going to stand up here and make empty promises or tell you lies. I don't know how to do it, but I know we've got to figure it out. And that's what I plan to do. I plan on getting in there, and we're going to figure it out.
All right. Mr. Marlowe, before I go and ask you, I'd give you the opportunity, obviously, to speak to that if you'd like to, a little bit more. Would you like to speak to that issue?
No, in fact, I can agree with Brass on this.
Very good. Well, then I'm going to turn to you with the same question. What are, of several topics probably, what's a major topic we haven't had an opportunity to discuss tonight that we should in this forum?
Well, I think something that we should look at is our prison systems. Currently in the state of Georgia, we're somewhere at 108% capacity in our prison systems. A lot of that has to do, in fact, almost half of it has to do with people who are in there that didn't hurt a soul. There was nothing stolen. There was nobody that was in danger at the time. And I think when you look at a free state, one of the things to consider is the pursuit of happiness. And as long as somebody does not interfere with whatever your definition of the pursuit of happiness may be, then you should have the right to do that.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Brass, would you like to take up to a minute and respond to that?
Yeah, I'll just add, you know, to Hayden's point in the prison system, the program I talked about earlier, 12 for Life, again, I encourage y'all to go look it up. It's a program done by a private company, Southwire. And what they did is they went in and got at-risk kids, ones that were about to fail out, and they gave them a job, they gave them education, they upped their graduation rate by 7 points in 5 years. And that same program they're putting into the prison system. They're getting them jobs so that they don't go back to prison. So.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Rebuttal or response to any of that? No. All right. In that case, we're going to move on to our 2-minute our 2-minute closing statements. Thank you again, both of you, for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. Mr. Marlowe, you're going to go first this time. If you would, give us a closing statement for tonight, up to 2 minutes, and thank you again for coming.
Well, thanks again for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak. I just want to reiterate the fact that we constantly have people who get into politics that are either connected with somebody who's already in it or who have been there for quite some time and completely lose the feeling of their constituents. They get nice and comfy in that incumbency and ultimately really never lose it. That's why we're even looking at limiting terms. And I'm just an average guy. I work an 8-to-5 job. I just make sure my mortgage payment is paid, that food is on my family's table when we go to dinner. And to see politicians and connected people get into office, absolutely bloat government, create programs that make it overly involved and overly invasive, that's a problem for American society. We weren't founded on those principles. I disagree with those principles. And as state senator, I promise that I will be fighting for a small, limited government with individual liberty for the little guy, not for my friends up there at the state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brass, your closing statement.
Well, I just want y'all to remember on May 24th, unless you go early vote, then I want you to remember then, that when you send somebody up there, they got to have principles. And so I want you to know my principles. When a bill comes at me, it's going to have to pass a litmus test. And that test is, does it protect life? Does it protect liberty? And does it protect private property? And that's it. If you can check yes to any one of those, then it's got my vote. If it checks no to all of those, then you better show me how it's going to help Georgians and going to help my constituents. So I ask for your vote on May 24th, unless you early vote. Matt Brass, State Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brass, Mr. Marlowe, once again, thank you for coming tonight, and most of all, thank you both for running in this Republican primary on May 24th. Thank you for seeking this office, the citizens of Coweta County in this region. We appreciate it greatly. I think you both did a great job, by the way. And thank you to our audience for being such a great audience. We're going to take a break for a little bit. We're going to come right back, and we're going to take a look at the candidates for Coweta County Commission 1. Hello and welcome once again to these Noonan-Coweta Chamber forums for the May 24th nonpartisan and partisan primary elections coming up in Coweta County and around the state of Georgia. Of course, we are looking particularly tonight at races here in Coweta County, starting with the probate court judges race, Senate District 28 race, and now Coweta County Commission District 1. This Coweta County Commission race actually has 3 people running in the partisan primary, the Republican primary on May 24th. Much like the Senate 28 race, this Republican primary, although it is a primary, is going to decide the race. There'll be no Democratic opposition in the fall, and so the winner of this race on May 24th is going to be going to the Coweta County Commission. And we have all 3 of our candidates with us, and those include Mr. Paul Poole, who is the incumbent in the race, incumbent Republican in the Coweta County Commission 1st District seat. He has 2 challengers, Mr. Joey Penley and Mr. Gary DeGeorge. And we appreciate all 3 of them being here. We have them right up on stage with us here at the Central Educational Center. And thank you all for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, I'd like to just take a moment and thank the Central Educational Center, Mr. Mike Britt, and the video production students here at CEC for hosting tonight's forum. They've done a wonderful job, and again, thank you very much for coming out tonight. We're going to follow the format that we've used in our other races, and we use generally at the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce, and that is, for our forum, we're going to start in just a few moments with a 2-minute opening statement for each one of you. And Mr. DeGeorge, I'm going to start with you in a few moments, but then as we go through the night, what we'll do is after every one of you have been given an opportunity to have that 2-minute opening statement, we're going to go to a series of questions that then have a 1-minute answer for each one of you. And we'll stagger throughout the night. So, Mr. George, just as you'll start with our 2-minute opening statement in a few moments, Mr. Poole, you'll get the first question and so forth. And then our 1 or, in some cases, 2-minute questions, we'll also give you each an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal if you so choose. With that, we're going to start our forum tonight. If each one of you can give us your 2-minute opening statement, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are seeking this seat on the Coweta County Commission. Mr. George, you can go first, please.
Thank you for having us tonight. I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be here. My name is Gary DeGeorge. I'm a proud father of twin 8-year-old boys. They're my pride and joy, obviously, as any parent knows. I own Atlanta Range and Ordnance. It's an indoor gun range here in Noonan, Georgia, since 2012, and been a resident of Coweta County since 2001. Proud to call it home. It's a beautiful place to live and a phenomenal place to raise a family. So I'm running as county commissioner to preserve that quality life that we enjoy here, to ensure that my children as well as yours have a quality of life for the foreseeable future. I'm running self-funded, not accepting any outside campaign donations. I feel that'll eliminate any possibility of a conflict of interest later on. It'll also eliminate the potential for any outside influence if I were to be elected. So I'm not accepting campaign donations, and I'll continue to do that until the end.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And again, thank you for being here tonight. Mr. Poole, your 2-minute opening statement.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the school system for allowing us to be here tonight. I'm just thinking how much it has changed since I first became commissioner. The movie industry has changed Coweta County for the good. Look at what we have here. And I want to mention that I've been here, coming here basically all my life. My wife and I have a cattle farm here. We raise cattle, and we truly care about the community. We have a son and a granddaughter that we spoil and get in trouble with occasionally. And it's been an honor to serve y'all for the last 11, almost 12 years. And I hope you will allow me to serve you again. And, it's just, we're so fortunate to live here in Coweta County. Look at how people are moving in. We're the bright star of south of Atlanta. People are moving into Coweta County. And, we have great law enforcement, good firemen. We took over 911, and I personally had an experience with that and how well they did. And, I just, and the citizens, I just want to thank y'all. Y'all make the county what it is. And one last thing I want to thank, too, is the county employees. We wouldn't have what we have. And they really put in long hours, and they haven't gotten a raise in years. But I just want to thank everybody, and I hope you'll allow me to serve you again. And this is a great county. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. Thank you for being here tonight. And we'll go to Mr. Penley. Your 2-minute opening statement, please, sir.
Good evening, Dean. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and allowed us the opportunity to get up here and discuss some issues. I live here in Sonoy. I have a wife, 3 kids. I've lived in this district for 27 years, and I've decided to run for county commissioner to preserve and protect the quality of life that we have in this county. If you look at the surrounding counties around Coweta County, we're able to say that we have a great quality of life. We have a great protection, great fire protection, great police, sheriff's department. So as we move ahead and as we continue to see growth come in, it's important that we protect that for our kids and for future generations. So it's an honor to be here. I appreciate everybody that put this on, and I'm looking forward to a great debate tonight.
Thank you, sir. Again, we appreciate all of you coming and appreciate you coming out as well, Mr. Penley. Appreciate all of y'all being here tonight. We'll go on to a series of questions. We're going to start with you, Mr. Poole, in just a few moments. I'm going to ask you in this opening question, to kind of expand a little bit on your opening statement. All 3 of you touched briefly on perhaps who you are professionally. Sort of talk a little bit about that. Take about a minute each. Tell us how your life's work experience, what you've done as a career, but also even beyond that, your business experience, your civic experience, your experience perhaps in your church or other things. How do those things come to the way you would approach or do approach the Coweta County Commission? And Mr. Poole, we'll start with you first, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, give you a little insight. How I really got started in politics is cows. I got to serve on the Georgia Ag Leadership Program a few years back, and it encouraged you to get into politics because so few people are in agriculture. And so in the meantime, I had worked at Sears. I worked for Sears since I was 16, and I stayed there till they got out of the catalog business. Now I'm currently employed at Delta Airlines, and I've been there 19 years. And, it's given me a big insight on how the business has worked and how the business community has changed. And, it's just, it's amazing. I was president of the Cattlemen's Association for 3 years. We won Chapter of the Year 3 years in a row, and it's been an honor to serve on that. And again, being a county commissioner, I was on the Zoning Appeal Board for 6 years. And I want to tell you, that board, you didn't get paid to serve on it. I did it because I cared.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pendley, you next, if you would take about a minute or so and tell us how your professional life, your civic life, how that would carry over into the Coweta County Commission.
All right, thank you, Dean. I've actually been on both sides of the professional world. I've been self-employed most of my adult career. I've also worked for a corporation overseeing as many as 40 employees. I've had to wake up and make payroll on a Friday morning when there may or may not be money to make it. I've had to make decisions on hiring people, on letting people go. I've had to make decisions on growth of a company. I've had to lead people in a direction when you start with nothing and you grow it to a business that's productive. And those businesses have all been right here in Coweta County. So, I take a great pride in the fact that I've operated businesses in this county. I've dealt with everything from business license departments to zoning departments to building departments and everything in between. So I have a great deal of knowledge of what it takes to make the county go round, so to speak. So that's where I feel that I have a great deal of knowledge to help that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. DeGeorge, same question to you, please.
Probably my most, I'm in a position in my life where I'm at the pinnacle of my working career. I'm also a member of the Boy Scouts Board of Directors, which I'm very proud of, and I serve on the Boy Scout Shooting Sports Committee. I've also been in the home building business where I've built my own personal home, so I've gone through and I've gone through the process of that with the county. I've also ran a large corporation with 70 employees and 8 hourly staff, 8 salaried staff. So I know what it takes to run a Fortune 500 company as well, and that's how I got to Coweta County, was on a job transfer. Unfortunately, the downturn left me unemployed. I had to take my own measures and cash in my 401k and started my own business. And so being self-employed, coming from the corporate world, was also taught me how to deal with a lot of very stressful situations, owning your own business. As Mr. Penley said, trying to make payroll or dealing with all the different departments locally and on a government level. Being in the firearms industry, you can imagine it's very heavily regulated by all the abbreviations, and I've dealt with them very successfully.
Thank you, sir. Going to ask you to elaborate in one other way. Just take about a minute or so and answer a question about your district. Of course, you are running for a seat on the 5-person Coweta County Commission, but you're also running in a district, the 1st District. Tell us a little bit about that district, and tell us this way. The questions we'll be talking about tonight, I'll ask about the county as a whole. As a commissioner, you sit with 4 other commissioners and you make decisions about the county as a whole. But as you go through your campaign, or just from where you stand, what do you think is the most important issue that might be particular to the 1st District? And I'll start with you, Mr. Pendley.
All right, thank you, Dean. As the last couple months, as we've been running this campaign and being here 27 years, I mean, I live it, I eat it, I breathe it. It's not hard for me to go fit in my district. It's not hard to join events and to get out and meet new people. One of the most common things that I've heard from the small towns, District 1 is made up of several small towns. One of the most common things that I've heard, not a complaint, but things, is that the small towns feel in a way neglected. And so as a District 1 specific, we need to work hard to unite that district, unite those small towns as one, to bring it to the bigger picture of Coweta County, where you've got 5 districts, but you've also got 4 or 5 little cities in one district, towns in one district. And in order for this county to continue to prosper and move ahead, you can't have divided towns and divided districts. It all has to come together.
Thank you, sir. Mr. DeGeorge.
To elaborate on that, the 1st District does have several small towns in it, and they all are vying for independence of the county. That's common knowledge. They all want to be independent of, even though they need the support of the county. Sonoy has gone through some growth, and the movie industry is very prevalent in Sonoy. It's obviously one of the biggest draws, as well as the small town charm. I personally am involved in the movie industry and on the stunt and training side of that, so I know what it takes to deal with the movie industry as well. The small towns that are within the first district need to work together with the county, and the county needs to work together with those small towns to make sure that they're prosperous and they're getting their services and needs met, but also that the county is getting their needs met by supporting those small towns. I feel that it's very easily doable, that we can work with the mayors of those towns and prosper together.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poole?
Excuse me. I just want to let y'all know that we have a good working relationship with every city in First District. Matter of fact, tonight we approved to put up a not throwing paper on the side of the road for Harrelson. A lot of these small towns don't have the staff, and our staff is always very supportive of those towns. But I really think the real issue in First District is our growth that's going to come to First District. We got two major developments in First District that are probably going to change our district more than anything we've ever seen. And I just want you to know, I got in a lot of things in place when we approved those things. So no matter who developed that property, they would have to do it. And it's a strange thing about it, I mentioned when we were doing it, that they might go in bankruptcy. And I never knew at that time that they were going to go into bankruptcy.
Thank you, sir. As I said at our opening, we'll also give everybody an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal or response. Would you care for one, Mr. Penley?
No rebuttal.
Mr. DeGeorge?
No, thank you.
All right. We will move on to our next question. I believe, Mr. DeGeorge, you're going to take this one first, if I'm correct. I'm going to actually allow up to 2 minutes on this question, if you like, because it's a little bit open-ended. We're the county, and we as a county are going through a complete revisiting of the county's comprehensive plan that's been going on for some time, large amount of community input, and rethinking our planning and our future in Coweta County. What is your opinion of our current comprehensive plan? And ask you to be a little bit more expansive, perhaps, in your answer. What's your vision for our development over, say, that next 20 years or so? Mr. George, we'll start with you first, if that's all right.
I don't know the exact figure that the county spent on the comprehensive land use plan, but I know it's in place. I know it's a very good plan that if we follow it, it's going to lead Coweta County to the place it needs to be. It's prosperous, healthy in our communities and services, and providing the residents a great quality life. I feel if we stick to the comprehensive land use plan, we'll get to that position. We also have the quality development corridor. I know that is a hot button topic for some people. Personally, I feel that it preserves the character of Coweta County. That again is in place to ensure that we don't have uncharacteristic businesses popping up next to residential areas or maybe places that they don't belong. So those two are in place for a reason. I feel we should follow them as they're written.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Poole, same question to you.
Okay. When I first became commissioner, we did the comprehensive plan. And I think if you look the last 10 years, how the county has grown and progressed and how we followed it. And I think, again, people are wanting to move here and live here. And another thing we do really good here in Coweta County, we work together and we live together and we support each other. I know the quality corridor, I'm tremendously supportive of that. I know some developers have wanted to do away with that quality development. But if you ride down 34 from Peachtree to where the Kmart used to be in Noonan, that is the quality corridor. And a lot of businesses have moved in there, and it's been very positive. And, I appreciate the citizens coming to that meeting, and we just had one. But I beg y'all, when we have another one, please attend. The attendance is so low, and we need y'all's input to help us make things the right way, because we don't know all the answers. And but that's a good guideline. And again, we just got through with it, and you know, it's worked, and we need a plan. We don't need to be just haphazard. And you know, like I said, my district is going to have tremendous pressure on it in the next 5 years. We're probably going to have more housing started in First District than any other district. But again, I think it's been good, and I thank y'all for supporting it. And you know, we need to follow it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Penley, do you have a comprehensive plan and your vision, if you will, for that comprehensive plan?
Thank you, Dean. I got to agree with Mr. DeGeorge and Commissioner Poole. As a whole, the comprehensive plan that's been in place is controlling the growth to a higher level. And as Commissioner Poole just said, you don't want to just let people run wild and build whatever looking storefront they want or whatever house they want or whatever. So it's obvious that the growth is coming. It's our job to control it, and it's our job to make sure that we are building quality developments and most importantly, the infrastructure. You don't go build 2,000 houses on a 20-year-old road that can't handle the traffic. So you need to be thinking about ahead if it's coming, and if you're going to approve it, we need to know that we've got the infrastructure to handle it. There are 2 major developments coming to District 1. They've been coming for a long time. So it's just a matter of time before that happens. So the plans that were put in place on those developments, from what I know of them, I think were pretty good plans. The future plans of the 1,000-foot corridor, the quality corridor that's in place, for the most part, I think that's working out well. I do think there's some things in that corridor and in these comprehensive plans that maybe as a small business owner and one that's had to maybe pay for the brick front or pay for the appearance of the corridor. There are some common sense issues that we could bring to light when it comes to some ordinances and items in that. But for the most part, the comprehensive plan is in great shape. I think the commissioners have done a great job with it, and that's going to be one of our jobs, is to make sure moving forward for the citizens, that has to be protected, because the growth is coming. And either you just let it come and you end up like one of our surrounding counties, or we continue to protect that and have smart growth and smart development.
Thank you, sir. Mr. George, response, rebuttal?
If we follow the quality development corridor and we follow our land use program, it's going to get us to the point where we need to be. And those are in place so that we don't turn into a surrounding county. We don't experience the blight or any of the degradation of certain areas where we, again, have uncommon businesses next to areas or in areas where they don't belong.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Poole, response, rebuttal?
Thank you.
All righty. We will move on to our next question, Mr. Poole. In a sense, this sort of rides on that, talking about looking at future development. Obviously, we, countywide, statewide for that matter, we saw a slowing of residential growth and new housing starts, et cetera, coincide with recession. Some of that seems to be coming back, or has been for the last several years, actually, improving. We've had some big things happen in our community, the development of the new Piedmont Hospital, redevelopment of Sonoy, and among other things. We're going at a tremendous amount of road work. We're going to have some big things coming up, Poplar Road interchange and others. In your opinion, looking out over the next 5 to 10 years, what are the most important things that need to happen for the future development of our county? Whether those be infrastructure or regulations or otherwise, what would situate our county best to grow and to grow well over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, again, to follow the comprehensive plan, and then again work with the developers, and get them to pay the cost of the red light for the left-hand turn lane or the right-hand turn lane, because if they don't pay for it, we do. And the county For example, what I'm having to deal with right now, because it's Lower Fayetteville, that is one of the things that's going to hurt us is transportation. The money is not there for transportation. But I'm going to tell y'all, if it wasn't for SPLOSH, we wouldn't have what we have. If you look at all the developments that we've had lately on road improvements. For example, on Lower Fayetteville, about 5 years ago, Greta gave us $6 million. They widened the road by 2 feet on each side. And that's what roads cost.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Penley, same question to you. Looking out over the next 5 or 10 years, what are the most important things that need to happen for our future good development in Coweta County?
Well, I'll go back to my last comment. Basically, infrastructure is going to have to be key. And I understand, to Mr. Poole's point, the roads are expensive. Growth generates tax dollars. We have obviously a lot of industry looking at Coweta County. It's a great place to come, and we're going to continue to encourage that. With industry comes jobs, comes tax dollars. On the developer side, and one of the, I've had obviously an opportunity to talk to several developers and get their opinion as well. On their side of things, if you look at our housing industry in general, most of the housing that's being built due to the price of land, due to the price of development, due to all the ordinances and stipulations, we're building $400,000 houses. Where does the young family with kids starting out, where do they live? Do we want to run them out of this county? My opinion is no. So on Commissioner Poole's point about the red light, I agree. We as taxpayers, the developer's making the money, he should pay for it. At the same time, I think that we need to consider the tax dollars that's going to be generated off of the growth, off of the land taxes, and continue to try to work with the developers to make smart choices ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. DeGeorge.
Smart, responsible growth, residential growth in the right area is going to be key for attracting new business. So personally, I feel our infrastructure is in place. We've got a mega site with direct access to the interstate, to the rail, to the airport. We have our industrial parks, both at Creekside, Shenandoah, and then the new Patillo at 154. All those are already in place. They all have direct access to the interstate. Those trucks and trains and airplanes don't need to impede traffic flow on any of the other roads once we get those exits onto I-85 for them. The issue with residential development here in the county continues to be a battle, as it always has. People want to preserve our rural character, which makes Coweta County an amazing place to live. But we also have an influx of residents coming here, and as our population grows, those people need places to live. They need to generate revenues by tax bases from their property taxes on their new homes, and we need to make sure that our growth is done properly and that the developers don't run the commission.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poole, rebuttal or response?
I would just like to say one thing. These companies that come here, they want it for nothing. You end up having to concede to a lot of things. They do it to every community you go into. But we have been fortunate to attract the developments that we have. And another thing in my commissioner training I've been to, a $350,000 home won't cover the cost that it takes for that home. It's crazy, but that's facts and figures.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Penley, rebuttal or response?
The only thing I'd like to say is on the infrastructure side of things, Mr. DeGeorge is right. We have the industrial sites in place, great access to the interstate, great access to the local airport. But as we create these communities and these developments out in District 1 specifically, because Commissioner Poole's right, it's coming to District 1, and everybody knows where it's going. We have to make sure that local infrastructure, the residential infrastructure is in place, and that's what I refer to when I'm speaking of infrastructure.
Very good. Mr. George, response, rebuttal?
I'll agree with that. As District 1 becomes more populated, you've got the arterial roads coming in and out of it, 16, 154, 54. Those will have to be addressed at some point. Again, we're going to have to find funding for that. There's not even enough money in the budget to give our county employees raises. There's not enough money to give our public servants raises. The Coweta County Sheriff's Office hasn't had pay raises in several years. Neither have most of the other county employees. To ensure the prosperous growth of our community, we have to take care of those employees. And they need to be taken care of so they preserve the community and the quality of life in the community. So it's all fold, and it's infrastructure, it's county staff. Why they've gone so long without pay increases, I don't know. That's something I would commit to immediately doing, is addressing the fact that our county staff hasn't had pay raises, and I would look into that and figure out a way how to get them paid.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're coming to the end of our forum. In just a little bit, we have one more question and then our closing statements. And I believe this question starts with Mr. Penley. One of the things y'all all addressed a few moments ago were some of the, I think all three of you talked about some of the big road improvements, and I was glad y'all did that. I was going to ask you about it if you hadn't, but what are some of the biggest ones. So let me switch to something else that I'd like to ask you about that we've alluded to, and that is the county budget and taxes in general. For this last question, I'll allow up to 2 minutes, and we'll start with you, Mr. Penley. How would you characterize Coweta County's current budget and its taxes? Actually rolled back millage rate a bit this year, and of course manages a staff, a sizable staff of county employees and a number of projects. So, in generally speaking, how would you characterize taxes, property taxes particularly, but taxes in general in Coweta County, and the county budget? 2 minutes to you, please.
Thank you, Dean. Obviously, not serving as a commissioner, there's a lot of facts that I probably don't know, and I'm not going to stand there and act like I do know them. What I do know is when it comes to budgets in general, when it comes to expenses in general, you run the county like you run a business. You spend less than you make. You've got employees that are busting their tail to thrive this county, to drive this county, and those employees in particular should be well taken care of. If there's any excess, maybe you need to trim it. If your budget isn't working, you've got to look to see where you can cut that budget if you have to. The commissioners did a great job in rolling the tax back, the millage rate back. I think that's what most of the citizens wanted. On the same front, there's going to probably come a point in time, as we as citizens, we want nicer equipment. We want more services. We want bigger roads. We want all that stuff. Are we going to raise the taxes? I don't know. I haven't seen the budget. But just like at my house, if I want a nicer car, it costs more money. So if it comes to a point that we keep wanting nicer, bigger, newer things, we may have to look at a tax increase. Does that make me popular? Probably not, but it's real. And so, in my opinion of the budget, I'm not sure. I think the county budget's around $65 million a year.
Close.
So, sounds like a lot of money. We got a big county. We have a lot of employees. We have a lot of overhead. So, again, going back to the business operations that I've been privy to and in my career, I don't have an endless checkbook. I don't have a bottomless pit. I have to manage a budget, and we have to manage a business well. And the county needs to be managed the same way, in my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. George, same question to you, up to 2 minutes, please.
Okay. The budget for this year is $68 million. I have seen it. I've gone through it already as homework prior to standing up here for us. Personally, I enjoy a very positive working relationship with members of our business and civic community. I've been a member of the Chamber of Commerce since 2003 or 4. I've been active in that. I've spent some time in and out of the chamber, but in that time I've also worked with our business leaders in other aspects or in other capacities, and then our local civic leadership. I enjoy a very positive working relationship with the Sheriff's Office as well as the Police Department, with our current elected county commissioners, including Mr. Poole. I feel I've got a relationship with. So going in as a known citizen of this county, I feel that I would be able to work immediately, having a relationship with the current department heads as well as our county staff. I'm confident in my abilities. I'm looking for your vote on May 24th. Again, I'm self-funded. I'm not taking any outside campaign donations, and that's by design. So thank you for having us. I appreciate you moderating.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poole, same question to you.
County budget, $69 million. $14 million of that is for health care. In the last 4 years, our health care costs have gone up $3 million. Then we've lost Georgia Power. They used to be our largest taxpayer. They're no longer because of the energy program. The state of Georgia took away tax revenues for us. We don't get the ad valorem tax like we used to. And you top all that off, and we had to take $7 million out of the budget that was proposed just to balance it. You know, it's really tough. The county employees had to take really a pay cut because we raised the cost of their health care. You know, it's just health care is crazy out there, which we all know. But, you know, for example, we cut back so that the departments have to buy their own paper supplies. And, you know, we just can't keep putting it on the poor employees. And for example, the sheriff's department consumes about 45% of our money. And then, you know, we took over 911 this year, and we've saved money, but, you know, it's been really tight. And our revenues are basically what they were last year. And, you know, health care will go up even more. And we can change health care providers. But, you know, it's just money's very tight out there. You know, people think it's really grown a lot, but it hasn't. And, you know, we got roads that need to be attended to, but the funds aren't there. We've got other things we need to do, but the funds just aren't there. And I appreciate the other commissioners. We really had rollback $7 million. I've had people complain about the roads not getting paved. Well, part of the reason is we took $7 million out of the road department. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Penley, do you have a response or rebuttal?
No, sir, thank you.
Mr. DeGeorge?
I don't.
All righty. We're going to move on to closing statements then. Again, I'd like to reiterate how much we appreciate, how much the Chamber appreciates y'all coming out to this forum tonight. Take a couple of minutes for your closing statements. There may be any one of a number of issues that we didn't have an opportunity to address tonight. They're important issues, law enforcement and emergency services, recreation, what have you. So if you could, as part of your closing statement, if there's anything that we have not been able to address tonight, please take a moment to do so during that closing statement. We're going to start with Mr. Penley and reverse our order, so Mr. Poole, you'll be next. Mr. Penley, your closing statement.
Thank you, Dean. Again, I just thank everybody for coming out, everybody viewing at home. It's a very important time in our local government, in our state government, our national government. My generation is seeing stuff that we've never seen. As commissioner, it's important that we protect this county. We protect the growth of this county. The recreation departments, you brought up the recreation. You know, I specifically have young kids. The recreation departments that we have are vital to this county. When you talk about bringing industry into this county and them wanting it for nothing, well, eventually, they're not going to have another choice. If they want to go to the best county, they come here. And if we keep running this county, and if we keep our comprehensive plan in place, and we keep managing the growth, we have nice facilities, we continue to manage the budget, and as Commissioner Poole said, it's a challenge. It's a challenge in every business. I have a challenge every day managing a budget in my business. But you have to continue to do it. You have to continue to grow. The growth is coming. The need for services, you know, our fire department. If anybody has paid attention in the last 6 or 8 years at what has happened with our fire department, it's phenomenal. The stations, the equipment, the abilities. We took over 911 recently. So, you know, the sheriff's department, you look around, the equipment's getting newer, the equipment's getting nicer, and there's probably plenty more that they need. And as we continue to have more people, guess what? They're going to need more equipment. So we've got to continue to make sure that we provide a tax base and manage this county from all levels to where we can have nice recreation, nice sheriff's department equipment, nice fire equipment, continue to have happy and healthy employees of the county by taking care of them. So I appreciate the opportunity. Dean, I appreciate you. Mr. Britt, all your students, I appreciate the Chamber of Commerce. And I just, of course, I'm going to ask you, starting Monday, early vote, go get them. Most importantly, May 24th primary, and I'm going to say this on TV, I don't care who you and your friends go vote for. We got to get this county back to voting. The turnout to the polls is crazy low. So get out, go vote for Joey, of course. I'd like to have you vote May 24th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Poole, closing statements, please.
I just want to tell you, it's been a pleasure serving the citizens for the last 11 years. I think if you look back over the last 11 years, we've had positive growth. Things have been good. The community is even grown. We got the Cancer Center of America that we worked on. That's been over 1,000 jobs. Our health care is so much better. We've got grocery stores now that are convenient. I can remember when you used to you had to drive into Noonan to go to Kroger. I think our lifestyle and what we have here is so much better than it was a few years back. But it's because of the positive growth and the citizens. And you know, nobody wants their taxes raised. I don't want mine raised. I mean, you know, you can only do so much with so much money. But, you know, y'all make the community what it is. And I want us to stay positive. I want us to still have the rural aspect. I don't want every bit of our land to disappear. And I don't want the people that lived here all their lives to have to pay for all the new stuff that's coming in. And that's one thing we did away with, was impact fees. But that may be something we need to look back into, because it's not fair for the ones that have lived here to pay for all the stress and everything else that's had from the community. But again, I just ask you to look back over the last 12 years and think, you know, how positive Cayuga County has grown. And again, I ask you to vote for me, and also to do the early voting. We have two places. The county building where you get your tags. We got a new place where Central Library, right by the across the street. You'll be able to vote early from May the 2nd till I believe it's the 22nd at both places. So none of us have excuses for not voting. And again, I want to thank y'all for what you've done, and it's been an honor to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. DeGeorge, your closing comments.
Again, thank you for having us up here. I appreciate it. I'm honored to even be able to run for the commission seat. And with that, I will serve the community, the county, its residents, and the administration of this county with honesty and integrity. It's the same as I've always done in personal business for myself, as well as working for other companies. I'm asking for your vote as well as the other two gentlemen. May 24th, Gary DeGeorge. Again, thank you for having us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your closing statements. Appreciate y'all coming tonight. Wanted to thank a few folks. One is our audience here at the Central Educational Center. Y'all have been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much for coming out. And again, gentlemen, thank you for coming here to the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce Forum here at CEC. And most of all, thank you, all three of you, Commissioner Poole, Mr. Penley, and Mr. DeGeorge, for standing up for your fellow citizens and running for this important office. We appreciate your service to Coweta County. So I think y'all did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a couple of other notes of thanks. Thanks once again to Michael Brent and the Central Educational Center and all the students here in the video production labs. They've done an absolutely wonderful job hosting these local forums and filming them as well. I know we're staying up a little bit late on a school night, so really appreciate everything that you're doing here. And I also like to thank, as always, the Noonan-Coweta Chamber of Commerce and President Candace Boothby and her staff for everything that they do in getting these forums ready and giving Coweta County citizens an opportunity to hear from the people who are going to be running for office, in this case, on May 24th. Thanks for joining us, and again, thank you to our candidates for running and coming out.